Started right on time, it's 9 a.m. And I'd like to welcome everyone to the meeting of the Indiana Recycling Market Development Board. The new faces in the group, and I'm sure we'll get to the introductions. But first order of action is the consideration and approval of the February 1st, 2022.
Can we go ahead and do a quick Zoom, like kind of housekeeping announcements for those that are online? I'll get that started. Thank you for joining us today. I am Deanna Garner, Recycling Market Development Program Manager for Items Office of Program Support. All microphones are currently muted. For attendance tracking, please take a moment to write your name and affiliation in the chat box. We will be taking questions and comments from participants at today's meeting. All participants will be able to unmute themselves and ask questions or make comments when called upon for those appropriate times. If you have a question or technical issue during the presentation, please use the chat feature. To access the chat feature, at the bottom or top of your screen, depending on your device, you'll see a menu bar. You may have to move your mouse or touch your screen for the menu bar to pop up. In the middle of that menu, there is a chat icon which you can click on to show the chat dialog. Please utilize the chat features if you have any questions or comments, and you'll be called upon at the appropriate time. Please note that if you are to direct chat using the chat feature, chat to myself, Deanna Garner, or everyone, messages to item communications have the possibility of not being seen. For everyone present via Zoom in today's meeting, please identify yourself when speaking. If any members of the media have joined us, please utilize the chat feature or email media@idem.in.gov if you have any questions or would like to schedule an interview. This meeting is being recorded and will be posted on IDEM's website, recycle.in.gov or GOV. With that, I will turn the meeting back to Bruce Burrow.
Thank you, Deanna. Again, we'll move forward in the agenda for the consideration of approval of the February 1st, 2022 RMDB meeting summary. Has everyone had the opportunity to review the summary of the meeting? If so, do I have a motion to approve? Motion by Ms. Henry. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Gretz. I'm sorry, Mr. Lutz. We'll do a vote. Debbie Hackman.
Yes.
Mr. Lutz.
Yes.
Ms. Henry.
Yes.
Mr. Gurn.
Yes.
Ms. Whitehead.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Motion carries. The summary is approved. Next item on the agenda is the item update. And for that, I think we're going to turn to Ms. Pat Daniel, who keeps us all in order.
Actually, I'm just going to turn it over to our new Assistant Commissioner for the Office of Program Support. As many of you know, Julia has retired, Julia Wicker, our old AC. We are very proud to have had her as our AC. I think the board, the program, recycling our office as a whole, really done well under her administration while she was with us. Bob was our Deputy Assistant Commissioner under Julia, and he was recently promoted to the Assistant Commissioner position. So Bob is going to introduce himself, give you a little bit about his background, and provide the item updates.
Thank you, everybody. Try to make it around and introduce myself to you all. Just a little bit about me. I've been with IDEM for about 5 years now. As the Deputy Assistant Commissioner, my role has been mainly the management of the 4 regional offices of IDEM and overseeing the safety program for the agency. And then, of course, just doing various assignments for the commissioner and the chief of staff probably more notably our 7-day metric, where we have now come to issuing our inspection reports in less than 7 days, and actually we're at 4.2 days. So we've made big strides in our efficiency in getting our reports out to our committees earlier. So I've also been working on the environmental justice effort for the agency. As you all know, diversity and inclusion and things that involve making sure all our stakeholders understand what we do and understand our processes has become very important. So we're currently working on that. You all know there is a new commissioner, Brian Roberts, who formerly was our chief of staff, and Bruno Piggott, our former commissioner, has moved on. He's now the Deputy Assistant Administrator in the Office of Water for the Environmental Protection Agency. So Bruno was another great guy. You all sure knew him, and he brought a lot of energy to the agency. Brian is a great guy, lots of experience, and has lots of great ideas. So there's been a lot of movement in IDEM, which is probably happening everywhere in the workforce. Can't say enough about Julia Wickard. Just, great person, great leader. Did a great job for OPS and for IDEM, and also for agriculture as the past agricultural liaison. So we'll miss Julia. She was also a close personal friend. We'll continue to stay in touch, but it was nice to work with her and under her leadership. As I mentioned, the agency is trying to be competitive in this current workforce we're in, and it's been a challenge. As I just mentioned to you, just the movement in upper management of IDEM, and there's been a lot of movement within IDEM as these positions open, and there's also been a lot of movement out of IDEM. So we're trying really to figure out ways to be more competitive. They're currently studying ways to look at wages for state employees, and most recently, they did approve remote work options for state employees, which now gives state employees 15 hours a week that they can work remotely. As I know you all are aware that after the pandemic, well, actually before the pandemic, but definitely it was proven through and after the pandemic that remote work is something that's attractive to folks who are working, and with people with young families, elderly parents, and other things that really provides a lot extra for folks who can work remotely. And I know the agency, we found through our own studies that we were able to work remotely very effectively and still maintain our metrics. So we're working real hard at that. I'm real pleased to be working with this board and Deanna, Pat, other members of OPS who are here. So we have like a lot of really very talented people in OPS that I think do a very good job for this board. And so it's my job to support them and help them however I can, but also it's my job to let them do their jobs, which I think they do very well. House Bill 1226, very exciting. Just very, very cool all the way around when you're talking about this waste diversion money and seeing some new projects, seeing some new pilots and what that might bring. So I'm very excited to be a part of that. The community recycling grants awards are done, and so there's 18 applicants and just under $500,000, $465,000 that has been awarded. So we continue with that as well. You probably are not aware, but IDEM has entered into a partnership with the State Fire Marshal's Office and the Indiana Department of Homeland Security. The mission of that partnership is to eliminate this PFAS firefighting foam, AFFF foam, which is really just been not a good thing for the health of firefighters and also for releases to the environment. Why is it so much of interest to IDEM? Well, it is because every time this foam is used, it's 100% release of some sort to the environment. And so we are very interested in getting this out of inventory for the reasons that PFAS is a forever chemical. It's very hard to break down biologically, and it kind of just remains in our water supplies and actually in the bloodstream of every American. About 98% of Americans have some trace of PFAS in their bloodstream. So it's something we're working really hard on. The first round pickups from Indiana fire agencies are actually going to occur next week. So we'll start making these collections and getting this out of inventory. Southwest Regional Office is doing an Ohio River Sweep via an event on May 12th on the Ohio River in Evansville. And EPA Administrator, Region 5 Administrator Deborah Shore, Commissioner Rockensuse, and Orsanco Executive Director Richard Harrison will be there for that event. So we're doing a cleanup event on the Ohio River here shortly. Now, of course, we have the virtual Earth Day presentations. As you know, for years, IDEM's been involved in Earth Day. It's just a great way to get the word out, especially the elementary school students, about the environment, getting folks interested in the environment. Kristen Coasters, I believe, is back here somewhere. There she is. Instrumental in getting that done. So far, we've reached about 8,000 elementary students with the Earth Day virtual programs. It is our goal, hopefully at some point, to go back to more in person. But it's still because of the pandemic and getting out of that now, where people will start to feel more comfortable with us doing the in-person ones. We really enjoy the in-person ones, so we're hoping to go back to that shortly. And with that, that's what I have for you. Thank you.
Mr. Lugar, we're rather informal here, so can we call you Bob or Robert? Which do you prefer?
Would be fine.
Bob?
Yes.
Well, I think I can speak on behalf of all the board members. We're very honored to serve the state in our role here, and we take our responsibilities very seriously when it comes to awarding funds for new recycling initiatives. And so I guess welcome to our group. We look forward to working with you, and big shoes to fill, but I'm sure you're up to the task. So
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate that.
Anything else, Deanna?
Could I, Mr. Chairman, could I ask you a question, please?
Certainly.
Some states, and I'll use Michigan as an example, move very quickly, and I think irresponsibly, in dealing with the PFAS issue. And Indiana has been very responsible, I think, in its approach by taking its time and making sure of the parameters involved before they made a move. Exactly what is the state doing with the PFAS issue? I know you mentioned in your presentation, but what exactly is the state doing to address the PFAS issue?
Well, we're currently the EPA has issued a roadmap on PFAS, and so if you'd like, I could make that available to you all, but what has happened so far is mainly water testing, where we're looking at water supplies between 3,000 and 10,000 populations. We just did testing in that range, and those results are published on our website. So IDEM has actually created a PFAS website, and as part of that website, we have on there links to the EPA and what they're doing, their roadmap. We also have links to the Indiana Department of Health, who talks about fish advisory and things of that nature. There's links to the Department of Defense and the things that they are doing. So we put together really a very comprehensive website. And along with that, we published the water testing samples. The standard that has been established for testing is 70 parts per trillion in finished drinking water. And all the testing we've done so far has been below the 70 parts per trillion threshold. There have been, I believe, 5 detections, which is going to lead to, further testing. The EPA is providing funding for another round of testing, which will start probably later in the year or maybe early next year on larger water systems. But the EPA had previously done testing on large water systems and had not found detections in the water in larger systems. So really it's early. I will admit that we work very closely with Eagle, with the state of Michigan on the PFAS collection disposal program and how they did it. Our program pretty much was wanting to do it because right now it's not, it's not essentially RCRA classified, as you know. And so we did our program under the understanding that it would be handled as if it were RCRA classified. So, we're trying to be cautious and making sure that, we're, I guess, getting ahead of any possible EPA action that may come in the meantime. So as it's being, collected, we're figuring there's probably roughly 30,000 gallons of it that we know of that will be collected. Unfortunately, federal airports, FAA has not actually approved an alternative, a green alternative, if you will. So some of the airports are reluctant to give up that PFAS foam at this point. So that's kind of where we are. We are waiting for federal measures and regulations and guidance. But in the meantime, we're trying to move ahead with this foam, which seems to be a proactive and easy target for us.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Well, for everyone's information, Mr. Kratz is joining us today via Zoom. Trying to get up to speed with the new technology. So thank you, Mr. Kratz. The next item on the agenda is the review of the status of update and existing grants. Ms. Garner, are you going to
Yes,
take the
yep,
initiative on this?
I sure will. Yeah, so we are looking very good. Fiscal year 21, we have one grant remaining that hasn't been closed out, and I just received that paperwork today. Thank you, Sandy. And so that's very positive, and all of those really received no issues. That was a great year for us. Fiscal year 22 that we awarded last fall We have all but one in execution, and that one's just had some paperwork issues getting the corrected paperwork in with us, but it's well on its way to getting executed. In addition to that, we just awarded these last fall, and two of them have actually finished their projects, and we're just waiting on, a year end for final reports on two of those. So, great positive news on that front as well. With those good news, I also asked two of our past grantees to present to us today and talk a little bit about the past projects. Our first guest speaker is Daniel, and he's gonna have to tell me his last name, Zalea, maybe, something like that. And then he's with Recycling Works. We did just conduct a tour of their facility. It's a materials recovery facility in northern Indiana. They did a major equipment upgrade that resulted in a lot of efficiencies that increased their diversion rates. But Daniel, do you have a PowerPoint, or are you just gonna talk to us?
I'm going to, so I have a video that I'm
Hold on,
gonna
we don't
show.
have sound. Hold
Oh,
on.
I don't have sound? Can you hear me, Deanna?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, that's good. All righty, well, first of all, good morning to all of you guys. Thank you so much for allowing me to share a little bit about what the grant allowed Recycling Works to really, what the grant allowed Recycling Works to carry out in terms of a retrofit in our plant. So this was something that was a huge part of upgrading our plant. Obviously, with upgrading equipment, creating more space, increasing pretty much at the end, we're increasing capacity and volume to be brought into our plant. So I wanted to, I'm gonna be sharing my screen, and I want, okay, I'm not able to share my screen.
We get that for you.
Just 1 second, Daniel.
All right,
Now you should be able to.
okay, fantastic. Let's see. All righty, so I'm gonna be sharing this screen with you. And this screen, so the video is 20 minutes long, but I'm gonna go little bits and pieces and cut through the video and show you exactly what underwent in our facility, what improvements we made, what building improvements we made as well. So the first one that I want to talk about is our tipping floor. So our tipping floor is what you see behind us, behind me in the video right there. I'm not going to put any volume in the video. I'm just going to talk through it. But pretty much this video was shot back in January. So we still had a little bit of upgrading still that we were not done with. But as you can see, before, our entire tipping floor was completely, it was on the open, so our material was getting wet, it was getting soaked. So whenever we would process and separate our material, we had a little bit of hardships trying to separate the material. So that's where the first item that was upgraded was that pre-sort that you see in the background. That pre-sort, what that pre-sort does, it allows our workers to be able to pick out any trash in terms of any plastic film or in any non-recyclable items that get through our plant. So that so that first part that was done, which is right here, our pre-sort, as you can see, our two guys are removing plastic film in a pre-sort, and that really allows us to clean up our processing early on, get any non-recyclable materials through the plant. It makes it easier for our machines to avoid any clusters, any wrappage around our screens, etc. The piece of equipment that you see back there is our OCC screen. That was our next upgrade that we did. And our OCC screen, what that does is it allows lighter material to float on top. And so our first separation that we're doing is our OCC. So before we had that OCC screen, we had to hand pick. So we relied on our workers, our associates really remove all the OCC they could from the stream. And that was incredibly hard to capture and retain all the OCC. But with this screen, that really allowed us to completely have it separated from the stream. And that allows that line, that conveyor belt that you see in the background, that allowed us to create 2 more jobs within our MRF to allow our associates to remove any plastic bottles, any contaminants that get into our OCC line. So we went from producing an average of about 20 to 25 OCC bales that were hand-picked out of our line, out of our old system prior to this retrofit, and now we're making north of 65 bales per shift. So before that was about 20 bales per shift that we're producing. Now we're producing north of 60 bales per shift of just OCC. At the end of this conveyor, we have pretty much a self-sustaining baler, which pretty much runs all day, and this our OCC screen is just feeding and separating a good quantity of OCC from our single stream. So that was
Hey,
a big,
Daniel,
yes.
for those of us not in the know, can you define OCC real quick?
Yep, OCC is just an old container board. So it's just recyclable cardboard boxes, any cardboard item.
Thank you.
Yep, you're very welcome. So the implementation of this technology really allowed us to capture and facilitate the way that we're capturing this material in our facility. So we had an increase of about 250% captured OCC that this OCC is making quite easily to remove from our stream. Our next upgrade that we did was some green eyes. So green eyes pretty much are just optics. So these optics allow, they're trained, so they're pretty much AI technology. These robots are trained to read specific plastics or specific commodities. So you can train these robots to read any type of PET, which is like your soda bottle, water bottle plastic. You can train it to read detergent bottles or any type of plastic. So big part of our retrofit was, and you'll see it here, is this robot right here. Right now we have a train to remove PET, which is your water bottle and soda bottle. So before, as you can see in the conveyor back there, it's a very self-sustaining system that's trained to remove that plastic, which I'm holding in the video. Before we had the implementation of this system, we were only removing about, our associates had to capture all this by hand. And this plastics is pretty much a big fundamental and one of our bigger movers in MRF plants. So we just didn't have enough human labor to really capture all this plastic. So with the implementation of this optic eye, which uses sensors to detect the plastic is trained to read, and when it comes under it, it has an air bar with 255 air valves and nozzles, and it shoots it specifically at that item, and it goes over a metal plaque and into the conveyor, which is behind me that you guys saw running. So this AI technology really picks at about, it picks about 1,500 picks per minute, which is extraordinarily quick. We can actually turn it up to run anywhere from 1,500 to 2,500 picks per minute. When I say picks per minute, it's just the number of items that we're able to remove and capture from our stream. Before, we were only making 3 bales of PET per shift, so 6 total in a day, because we're a operation that operates on 2 8-hour shifts. Now we're capturing 15 bales of this material per shift, so we're doing anywhere from 30 bales a day or more. So thanks to the IDEM grant and the team, it really allowed us to facilitate and capture this material without sending all this good reusable plastic that we can sell to the market. We reduced it from going to the landfill. So we actually were able to purchase 3 of these optics, and they're all trained to capture different fibers. The first optic We have it to remove paper fibers, so newspaper. Second optic is removing detergent bottles or milk bottles. And then this optic right here is removing PET, which is primarily the most common plastic that you see in MRF plants. So you'll see that in the screen, anything that's white, that is the plastic that it is reading, and with air, it's just shooting specifically at that location, allowing us to capture quite a bit of this material and reducing our amount of volume that we send into a landfill. So, but as you can see, there's no way that we're able to capture that much material with just human hands. I mean, it is virtually impossible for a human to pick at the rate that this does. And this just allows us to really capture all this very, very fast. So that is a little bit of our upgrade that we did. Once again, that allowed us to create a few more jobs in terms of removing any plastic that still gets through our optics, because not AI technology is not perfect. It's not 100% efficient. So we still have required the help of our human associates, our team, to really pick out specific plastics to get through our stream. So our next item that we were able to really upgrade or at least upgrade in terms of materials inside is an eddy current. An eddy current is a separator that separates aluminum. So in this case, we're separating aluminum cans. So the stream, so let me go back a little bit so you're able to see exactly how this works. So our stream falls through that conveyor belt. It goes through that conveyor, and it goes underneath that big hunk of machine that you saw underneath. And once it shows up in the video, I'll show it to you guys. But with the IDEM grant money, we were able to at least not purchase a new unit, but we were able to upgrade specific parts that we needed, and we were able to make it pretty much as best as we could in separating our aluminum that goes through our facilities. So with that IDEM grant, we were able to pretty much bring it back to life as best as we could, and we're able to separate aluminum at a rate that we were not able to before. So that is a little bit of the retrofit that went on in our facility with the help of the IDEM team and on behalf of Waste Away Group, Deanna and the team and the board members. I want to thank you personally as plant manager of Recycling Works for allowing us to upgrade our facility and really reduce the amount of good materials that we're sending out to the landfill. So actually with this upgrade, we were only able to process anywhere between 16 to 18 tons per hour of single stream. With this new system, now we're able to process north of 25 tons per hour. So that allows us to really attack and go after other municipal contracts to be able to get more single stream into our facility. We're going through about 1,500 tons a week, and that's still not enough for us. We're still running short of material by the end of the week. So so thanks to your guys' generosity and picking our facility, we're able to really divert a lot of good material for going to a landfill and bring it to us, just because we have a large increase of volume. Now we're looking to actually bring north of 2,000 tons per week, which is going to be huge for our facility and huge for our county, and overall huge for the environment, huge for the recycling initiative that we're all trying to do here. And that is it from me, Deanna.
Thanks, Daniel. Can you stay on just a little bit to see if the board members have any questions?
Of course. So I will stop sharing the screen. There we go.
Are there any questions, Sherry?
Mr. Chairman?
Before you added the upgrade in automation to pull out plastics, you mentioned that before that it was all being hand-picked. What was the amount of material that wound up as being waste that you missed?
Yep. So no, that's a great question. So our efficiency rate was only 70%. So we were missing 30% of good usable plastic that was going to a landfill just because we didn't have any assistance to really capture that material. I mean, because as soon as our pickers didn't pick the material, unfortunately, it went to our trash compactor, which then went out to a landfill. So we actually increased our efficiency to a 92%.
Very good.
Any other questions? Thank you, Daniel. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today.
Of course. Thank you, Deanna, and thank you, IDEM team. Thank you, guys.
So I asked a second grantee to also speak with us this morning. Tim Ragsdale is here in the room, so if you want to come up to the podium, and I'll share his slides in just a second, but he's from CW Recycling. So this is a little different of a project with construction and demolition waste. And he will best be able to talk on the project. So I can go ahead and pass it over to you, and I will try to share my screen, see how this goes.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Unlike Daniel, who IDEM helped install kind of an upgrade scenario, IDEM helped us, but that money went right into the big bucket. We started from scratch with this facility. We have an 11-acre facility right here in Indianapolis, I-70 in Keystone, which is really beneficial. We were licensed with IDEM prior to building this facility. We have a facility at Troy Avenue. My sister company is Construction Waste. They are a local hauler, have roughly 1,800 boxes, and they service that roll-off industry. There's a lot in that industry. So prior to building this facility, we were licensed with IDEM. We could bring all the waste, not all the waste. We were able to tip on our pad. It was outdoors. We could shut it down in the weather. A lot of limitations. We weren't able to service third party. So that was key in this transition. So we were able to actually, prior to building the facility, we managed roughly 240 tons of waste a day at our Troy facility. Our new facility, we're seeing about 500 tons of waste coming into our facility every day. So that we're managing 85% more waste than we were previously. We've added that third party element as well, which is key. 100% of everything we see here today would have gone to landfill. That's what's so impressive about what we're doing here. Construction and demolition debris, known as C&D, no one's addressed it. It's been difficult. It's big, it's dirty, it's unwieldy, it's not lucrative. You know, you're talking about aggregate, you're talking about dimensional wood, you're talking about manufactured wood products, OSB, wood with resins, particle board. You're dealing with commingled waste that really, if it's not source separated, when it goes into that roll-off container, there's just not been a solution for it. It's had to go to the landfill. So that's what's so wonderful about what we're doing here today is that we're actually able to look at and process and sort that product here at our facility. So we have an 11-acre facility. So this is what we built. This is what y'all helped us build. It's 33,000 square feet. It's rated for roughly 65 tons an hour. And you can go ahead and next. And we can see right here our trucks that have been loaded out that have metal scrap in it. So we're pulling metal, wood, aggregate, cardboard, and so we're getting, again, 500 tons a day. We were previously able to process roughly 145 tons a day. Now we are processing 500 tons a day. That's a 245% increase. And our previous diversion rate was roughly 8%. That's roughly 12 tons a day. Today we are diverting roughly 40%. That is about 200 tons a day, and that's a 1,500% increase. So, we just turned the plant on in January. We've not done this before. We're kind of following breadcrumbs, learning as we go. It's the Wild West over there, and we are already in the process of making some adjustments, some upgrades, working with engineers to be able to capture more and divert more waste. So state-of-the-art scale system with the driver assist terminal. Again, this is geared to help move vehicles through quickly. In this industry, as far as the roll-off industry, it's all about how many boxes can they turn in a day, how many loads. And so again, they're interested in getting in and out quickly. We're 3 minutes off the interstate. And that's our location is really critical in our success. There are other transfer stations. So obviously when waste goes to any of those other transfer stations, that gets pushed directly to the landfill. So it's all about what's closest and who's most convenient. So if there are loads of waste that our competitors or that our customers are dealing with on the far northwest side of town, they're most likely to go to the transfer station instead of bring that to us to tip. So you go ahead, Ian. This is a view from the top of our mezzanine. As you can see, we've got 5 bays. Again, it's all about moving vehicles in and out quickly, accommodating their time frames. Again, all that third party hauler opportunity has been critical to be able to address the diversion rate that's just not happening out there in when it comes to construction and demolition debris. Just another view from inside. The next image that you're going to see is down this lane right here. You can go next. So basically, this is our processing floor where everything is being pushed down this lane. We've got room for roughly 650 tons of waste right here in this area. We have as you can see, there's an excavator. Go to the next slide. There's an excavator that's feeding the system, and it's basically feathering all of that waste onto the conveyor to go on to the next. Once it gets to the top of that conveyor, it falls onto this dual deck screen, everything 8.5 inch and smaller. All the heavies, all those smaller items drop down and into our B line, which you see right over here. So again, everything 8.5 inch and smaller, it's dirt, it's smaller, heavy, the heavy fines, and then everything 8.5 inch and above continues down this dual deck screen into the next conveyor. So you can see our B line here, our A line here. This is all 8.5 inch and above. Go to the next. Then it hits this conveyor belt. And we've added about 20 new jobs here on this sort line. As you know, the job market here in the world we live in today has been a real challenge, and it started out that way for us. The pay rate that we're offering is a welcome relief for our employees. If you talk to them, they say, "I'm blessed." And that's exciting to hear when you're dealing with, it's not a glamorous job. It's dirty, it's hard, it's physical. It's not heavy lifting, but it's physical. It's a two-handed job. And so with our pay rate and our benefit package, it's been a real welcome relief for the employees that we have out there on the line. And we found that, obviously there's some certain employees wash out, but our retention rate is, after 4 months, is really solid. And we've got a really good staff of people that are happy to have jobs and coming in and dependable in their life. Go to the next one. I think we've got a couple more. This is again just down our sorting line. Each one of these bins that you see gets a specific commodity that's dropped into it. What we get so much wood. It's unbelievable how much wood we receive. And so we are in the process of looking at some facility changes that are going to allow us to pick wood at every one of those stations, wanting to get our diversion rate up. And as I mentioned, we're roughly in the 40% range. We're told that if you get into the 50% range in the C&D world, that's awesome. Our hopes are to get into the 75% range. We have a number of customers that have lead initiatives, and again, process of getting our facility certified and getting that diversion number up. It only helps those with those lead initiatives to get that second easy kind of a low hanging fruit point when it comes to the growth of the end. So this is a view from the other end of the facility. Looking back down our sorting line, as you can see right there to the right, we have a vibratory distoner and air knife separation. So all of the lights, all of the fines get blown out and into this conveyor and they come off the end of the belt. All the heavy items drop down onto this cleated ag belt, and we have someone that's there sorting all the, pulling the metal out and just trying to make that aggregate clean. Getting that heavy out of the mix is just key to success. No reason to put aggregate into landfills. So what you see here is our wood grind. We have a rotor chopper. We are grinding all of our wood to 2" minus, and all of that gets diverted. As you can see, it just keeps coming at you. The next slide here, you see us loading that out. It gives you a little bit better perspective as far as that bunker is concerned. Go to the next. This is the wood we collect. So every day, all day, you're just pulling that wood out. And there's more to capture. And so we're working on ways. Go to the next one. That's our dimensional wood. Another view from the mezzanine. And by the way, that mezzanine level that we have, we are in the process of building, installing a cover for that so that our employees have some climate control. So to improve that air quality, noise reduction, just to kind of create a better working environment for those folks. But that's the cool thing about that is that my parent company, Rinston Incorporated, is one of the nation's top 10 heavy demolition companies, and we are salvaging that mezzanine level from a demo. So that is completely recycled. We have a building on the first slide, I meant to point out, but the first slide, we have a building that we had salvaged the entire building. So again, that's just almost unheard of. It's very difficult. Imagine disassembling structural steel and keeping it organized, keeping the siding, keeping all of that. It was an undertaking. Go ahead to the next scan. So this is our OSB wood. Again, that's all recycled as well. We'll go ahead and knock down this. Where you see our OCC, incorporated cardboard. This is dirty. It's kind of nasty, and it comes in all different shapes and sizes, but it's all recyclable. And again, prior to building this facility, all of these commodities, there was just not a solution for. And that's what's so impressive about this facility is that it all comes co-mingled and contaminated, or however you want to phrase it, mixed in a roll-off container. And we're actually able to take that, not source separated, but take that mixed box of waste and recycle it. As you can see, that's aggregate, a lot of heavy stuff in there. Go to the next, and this is our metal commodity. So again, all of the contamination in that isn't an issue. All of that gets ground. The contaminant is removed, and that's actually high-grade recycled metal. And there you see just more cardboard that's going to be baled next. And there you see some metal that's been pre-sorted. There to the right, you can't really see it, but we have a big hole, and we're able to push into a transfer trailer right there from the floor. So we don't actually have to pick it up. It's much more efficient that way. But I think that's the last slide, but it's just been a learning process. And like I said, we're just getting started. We've taken a lot of notes. We're going to do it again somewhere. We're not sure, but it's serving a purpose, this need that's been ongoing, that's never really been able to be addressed. And we are just excited that we have this opportunity. Obviously, recycling and sustainability in the last few years has become much more at the forefront. And so the timing was great. And we're really excited and appreciate the opportunity to work with IDM in order to help make this happen. It's just kind of been the perfect timing and the perfect scenario. I'm happy to answer any questions that go on right now.
So what is OSB? What is that about?
Oriented strand board, it's basically wood with resin. It's the particle board
Okay.
wood that you see that's manufactured that has resin. And
I have a question.
You showed some very fine wood particles on one of your slides.
Yeah.
As opposed to this bulk wood that's on the slide that you just had up there. Is all of the wood ground to that smaller consistency?
it is.
And what do you use that for?
So all of that goes, goes to, to another company that, we actually have to pay to truck it. So a lot of people think that, again, recycling is lucrative. We give it away. We have to pay to truck it, but it's still a solution to a better alternative to putting it in the landfill. So it gets colorized and turned into mulch.
Mulch. The corrugated, the OCC, you said was pretty dirty. Do you have any trouble marking that material being so dirty?
No, and by dirty, it may have, it's wet oftentimes. It's been in a roll-off container. It may have some dirt on it. But for all intents and purposes, I mean, it's something that it's not clean and fresh like you would find on the shelf at Lowe's, and it's been used. But as far as major contamination, no, that's not an issue. But it's just been out in the weather. It's been soggy. It's been in a roll-off container, and they have dirt on it. But again, the end user that the market where that we work with, the company, the vendor that we work with, it's grade A, very usable.
One final question. The OCC you can market, the wood you say you can't. What materials can you market?
Well, the metal has value, and obviously there are a lot out there that are recycling metal that say we recycle, and great. It is recycled, but again, to recycle C&D waste, that's an undertaking. It's a very challenging undertaking. Like I said, there's not lucrative markets, so cardboard has value. Wood could have value. I mean, obviously, we'd love to find a scenario where we're not having to pay to transport it. And that's the case for a lot of aggregate, same story. It gets crushed. It may be used for backfill. I've been told that at times we are a bit disruptive to the crushed concrete market, because when it comes down to it, we'll give it away. Virtually, come get it. we get a lot of that. My sister company has concrete washout. So we are constantly getting concrete back that we're crushing and using for construction projects for backfill and so on. So, again, we're also pulling out vinyl siding. It has minimal value, but again, for us, a lot of it's about cost conversion and making that big smaller, making it heavy lighter, and diverting it from landfills. So it's just kind of part of the solution, and we are exploring drywall, being able to recycle gypsum, drywall board. That's going to be a whole other undertaking. It seems that there's a big need in the market for that, but again, it's just a whole other challenge and another facility and process that's going to require.
One final question I'll put. Looking at your revenue streams and what you can and can't sell, I'm guessing that your primary source of revenue is probably tipping fees.
That's a big component. Tipping fees are comparable. We obviously, it's not apples to apples. What we're doing, the fact that we are processing all of this is a lot, is apples and oranges compared to all the other transfer stations. But we have to be cost competitive with those transfer stations. So tipping fees are a part of that. And again, landfill diversion is key. You know, the tipping fees make up a component of that, but making it smaller, making it lighter, sending less to the landfill, that cost difference helps.
I have multiple questions, and I'm not going to bore the committee, because I find it great that you're embarking on this effort to recycle C&D. Very challenging. Your aggregate, are you able to take concrete with rebar and crush it?
We are. But we're typically not, so if someone has clean fill, if one of our third-party haulers has clean fill, we recommend them take that to a clean fill site. We process all of the concrete that comes in from our sister company, Construction Waste. And when a hauler has a scenario where they have dirty concrete, you know, but again, that's something that we really try to avoid, because as you can see, our facility really isn't geared to process big, heavy concrete. And someone's going to be, those third-party haulers are going to be much better served to take that directly to a clean fill and pay by the load versus pay us by the ton. It's going to be more expensive to tip on my floor. And so when we see a load of concrete, it's a dilemma. We aren't really geared. We are not geared to handle MSW, municipal solid waste. This industry is full of acronyms. So we don't handle MSW. That comes to the floor. We have to just push that to the trailer. Aggregate concrete's kind of the same. If we can sort that, we do. As you can see, a lot of it gets through the line. If we have a load that gets tipped on the floor and it's clean enough, then we can push that to the commodity bunker. But if it's broken and intermingled, sometimes we have to just push that to the trailer. So it's a dilemma as far as we want to say yes to all those third-party haulers. They don't want to have to think, what do I do with what's in my box? Where do I go? I'm trying to make that. But if someone has straight clean fill, we recommend that they take that directly to the clean fill.
Would you envision this facility being profitable without your sister company there to feed it?
Good question.
And I'll give you a little bit of background. I'm involved in another ward, and it's in the state of Kentucky. that's looking at C&D recycling.
Mhm.
And, this is very interesting and relates directly to that. Where they want to do the C&D recycling, but it has to be obviously profitable and sustainable. And there's so many questions I could ask you about how much you're pre-sorting, how much is line sorted and whatnot, and the end uses. But I think with your sister company, you're able to provide the consistent supply as well as reuse a lot of the commodities that you're generating with backfill, as you say, or you can find an outlet for your wood. That'll be another good revenue stream. Your OCC is obviously a good revenue stream. But there's so many other commodities that are mixed within that, treated wood versus regular painted wood or just clean wood. But to avoid the questions, if I could get a business card from you after the meeting, I would appreciate it. But I do commend you for your efforts.
Yeah, thank you. To answer your first question, I think the jury's still out. We've just been doing this for 4 months. And, we're seeing some facility engineering elements that need to be addressed that are going to help us become more efficient. I think profitability is definitely factors in as far as my sister company is concerned. There is a transportation, there is a driver time, there's a hauling element. Our central location has been integral as far as profitability and success. Obviously, being located on the south, we're in a great central location. And that's a big key for all of those third-party haulers as well. Those tipping fees are a part of the equation, but again, sorting efficiency is going to be key. Transportation for my sister company is the key. Our speed and turnaround time that that would attract those third-party haulers. That's a factor. There are a lot of different moving parts, and just being 4 months into this, we're still taking notes and making a lot of adjustments.
See a lot of manpower on the ground. So that's a good thing.
There is, and it's such a big difference, that one loader operator can make as far as how efficient, how things flow, So we're, like I said, following the breadcrumbs, and it's an adventure. And it's been a very positive experience, but it comes with a lot of challenges as well.
Thank you. But Mr. Gratz, did you have a question? From our Zoom connection? I guess not. Any other questions?
No, I don't. Bruce? No, I don't have any questions.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? Hearing none, we thank you very much. Look forward to talking to you further.
And I can leave a few cards here with Deanna.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, and I think we might have a tour kind of on the horizon.
So I hope to coordinate. We did do our site visit at the facility before they were operational, but we do hope to coordinate one and invite the board to another tour of the facility now that it's got moving parts, right? So hopefully in the near future, you'll see an invite for that. I also did want to remind the board that of the funding amounts for each of these projects. So CW Recycling, we awarded $250,000, and at least at the time that they applied for the grant funding, they had told us it was a $2.1 million project. So we awarded it for the actual waste sorting system inside the facility. We did not fund any part of the building, even though that was a big part of the project. And then Did you have a comment on that?
Well, I was thinking we were way off on that 2.1 million thing.
Yeah, that's why I said, according to our proposal we
Yeah, it
received.
turned out to be a little more than that, but,
Sure. And in the recycling works project, we awarded $478,000 for approximately $2 million project as well. So this is good money going to work on these projects. So I want to thank, both Daniel again and Tim here for their work on these projects and representing and sharing their updates with you today. And also thank the board for doing some good work in awarding these projects. That these are the kinds of things we want to continue, obviously, seeing through.
thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
All right, the next item on the agenda is the 1226 update.
I'm going to share my screen again. Hopefully everybody heard that the House Bill 1226 was passed into law, signed by the governor. So we have a few tasks ahead of us. So I wanted to give just a quick synopsis of this bill again, as it pertains to the board, and kind of the timeline as well to share with you guys. So sections 1 and 8 of House Enrolled Act 1226 establishes and implements the Central Indiana Waste Diversion Pilot Project for the purpose of determining the most practical and effective means of diverting recyclable materials from waste streams for the purpose of commercial reuses. Some key points include that the project is limited to Marion County. The duration of the pilot project may not exceed 2 years after the date that the pilot project commences. The bill requires the Recycling Market Development Board to consider the type and amount of waste that is proposed to be diverted during the pilot project. It requires the board to prioritize applications based on the largest amount of waste diversion potential through the pilot project. And the board shall not award, that sentence does not make sense, sorry, no more than $4 million in total to applicants chosen to participate in the pilot project based on the recommendations by item. That legislation also requires items to develop pilot project application forms, make the forms available on or before July 1st, accept applications through October 1st, and then provide those recommendations to the Market Development Board on or before December 1st. So looking at that, I do hope to get the forms available the week before July 1st and posted. I'm working on the draft applications now. We've been in talks with several entities that are interested, so there is interest in this funding. So that is good. Then we'll be accepting those applications through October 1st. Now it says we provide recommendations to the board by December 1st, which I will do. But as you guys are, well, some of you are still new, but the schedule kind of goes, we meet at the very end of October, and then we don't meet again until usually the beginning of February. So awarding those funds will probably happen then at that February meeting of next year, is what we're looking at, a timeline. And then, as you guys are well aware, we usually give 90 days, 3 months for the execution of those agreements to take place. So these project commencement dates will probably be next summer. Are there any other questions about the process for now?
Deanna, this pilot program is going to be $4 million in collaboration with the normal $2 million that we award on an annual basis, correct?
Right, these are separate funds from the grant funding. This is a pilot project, not a grant. So we are awarding those funds.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we as board members then will be evaluating not only the normal recycling market development board grants. We're awarding these grants for the pilot project as a separate.
Right, and then they're not a grant. I know, it's so, I remind myself every time, Pat can tell you repeatedly, that, she reminds me too, that, yeah, we are awarding this funding of $4 million, not grant funding in this case, for those pilot projects in addition. So we'll have, yeah, additional, like, separate stack of applications. The format will look a little bit, we're actually doing an application format versus a request for proposals. And so we will have those to review at a separate time. It actually kind of works out, so we'll be doing those in February after we've awarded grants in October.
Is there any limit to the amount of funding that any applicant can request?
No. Yeah, we have to stick to what is written in the legislation, and it just says up to 4 million.
Exciting. Yes, Derek.
I know the solid waste industry was involved in the negotiations with the legislature when this allotment was passed. And there was some concerns. One of the concerns, I know that the industry expressed was that the material in this waste diversion project, assuming that it's material that isn't already being taken out of the waste stream. In other words, if the waste diversion that they're talking about, if it's already being diverted, this is above and beyond that, I assume.
That is how I take the legislation as I read it. It's additional diversion. It's not, it's increasing diversion. It's not, we're not gonna award projects for something ongoing because it's a pilot project.
Well, but it's waste that is not currently being diverted.
I'm a little confused as to what you're asking. Are you asking if it's a project that's already ongoing where they're diverting a certain amount of waste in Marion County? They can't come in funding for that waste?
Yes. So that's a
We'll have to
concern.
talk to legal, because I don't know if the legislation specifically prohibits that.
Well, that, I will tell you that's a concern from the solid waste industry, because you're just robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Yeah, I understand that.
The other concern, and this is a personal issue. That $4 million, we have to beg every year for money, come to this board to give out in grants. And we're appreciative of any money we get, so. Now the legislature comes along and they're gonna come up with $4 million all of a sudden. I'm a little bit irritated that the money that's funding this $4 million comes from the 50 cents that the solid waste industry pays to the state every year. From my point of view, it's unfortunate that the legislature chose to target this grant to a specific geographical location. That money that we've been allocating in grants in years past is open to the entire state or anybody. Now we're targeting a specific geographical area, and I think that's wrong. That money, in my personal opinion, should have been open to the state, let anybody apply for that pilot project, and not just Marion County. And that kind of irritates me. So I feel that.
Understand your concern, Terry. Yeah, I think we are right around 13 to 15 million in the fund currently. So we will have our 2 million and the 4 million for this pilot project. Will still be around $8-9 million on the plus side in the fund. Replenishes about 2 million a year.
2.5.
2.5 million a year. So it is sustainable. It's not like we're sweeping the fund down and starting from scratch. We're not, depleting the entire fund. And I think as representatives within the state, you know, push their desires or bills through legislature, they have equal opportunity to, you know, get awarded or get a bill passed that would do the same for other areas within the state. I look at Marion County as being the population hub of the state. We've got a terrible diversion rate, and we need to do something. This is the most dense area that we have that we can do it in. So I agree with your statement, Terry, but we have to start somewhere. And if this can be an initiative to get other areas to start proposing legislation to be funded to do additional recycling work, I think it's a good thing.
I think this is an opportunity to also remind the board and our legislative members on our board that are here with us today that January begins a new legislative year. That's a biennium budget year that they'll be reviewing our budgets. So that is an opportunity for that 2 million that we are allotted each year to increase if state budget agency and it's in the item budget. So it's up to legislative matters, state budget agency to increase those funds, but there is an opportunity coming up in January for that push. So board members, if you need some people to reach out to and talk to encourage that, I can provide some contacts. And I see Donna Shively, Representative Shively raised her hand. Can unmute yourself.
Thanks. Thank you. Yeah, it's interesting, and take to heart the comments of the board. I will be advocating for increase of your budget next cycle, so that we can improve that for our board.
Thank you. We always appreciate your support.
I agree with Terry. I just know that there's lots of areas of the state that really struggle to finance their recycling programs. And they're looking at this a little bit jealously, maybe, because it is a big struggle for some of the smaller communities. My hope is that if Indianapolis starts recycling more, that will create more product, and maybe it'll bring in more businesses like we fund. That will be available, then that will help some of the other areas of the state as well.
Anything else from any board members? Pat, do you have something?
I do, I want to make another comment. I just want to remind the board that one of the criteria that we have to look at in selecting these pilots is that the project is able to be recreated in other locations throughout the state. So hopefully, if they are some really great projects that end up being implemented and very successful, other areas within the state can duplicate those and can come to the board for funding of those projects that can be implemented in some of those other areas around the state.
Thank you. Anything else on House Bill 1226? Okay, hearing none, we can move on. The fiscal year 23 grant round. We're going to review and consider some changes in our fee deadlines. Is that correct, Deanna?
Yeah, so this is just to review some process changes as well as some changes to the request for proposal guidelines. I pulled up on the screen my summary sheet, so I can go over kind of the summary of changes I have included in the provided request for proposal guidelines I previously provided you guys. And then if we need to go into the actual guidelines to discuss any further, we can do that. So the key dates are very similar timeline to what we have had in the past. So if we get approval today for the RFP, then we hope to make the announcement next Wednesday. to open up grant proposal acceptance with a deadline of June 15th. That allows 6 weeks again for those proposals to come in. And then we are awarding those at our October board meeting, as we have in the past, with that 3-month follow-up to have the contracts approved. I recommended keeping the funding minimum and maximums the same at 50,000 to 500,000. If you remember, that's a 50% cash match. So at 50,000, that would have to be a $100,000 total cost for that project to be funded. And this, I have talked with the community recycling grant programs. I want this kind of to be in line, so there's no gaps for like solid waste management districts in particular, since they kind of fall in between which grants to apply for. That they, for the lower funded projects, they still are able to apply for community recycling grants. But if they're looking at equipment or more large process changes, they would be able to apply for this one. So along with eligibility changes, I just recommend at this time removing schools and universities. Their projects tend to, again, fall in line with the smaller project costs and are better fitted for the community recycling grant programs. And then up for discussion, I did add to the evaluation criteria additional consideration for projects that increase landfill diversion of priority materials. I picked these materials from looking at our strategic planning meetings and the priorities that we placed in those. So I include plastics, mixed glass, organics, and electronics. And then I did add as well on the reporting section, adding that we may require retract reporting in the grant agreement. This has to kind of be like that may, just based on what the state statute says and what it's allowed for us to require as well. And then there was just a few additional changes, added some of the frequently asked questions that I get to the guidelines, including more specifics on eligibility and ineligible projects. Encourage selecting funding candidates to attend the board meetings, providing additional clarification of reimbursement process, and added additional information to the proof of funding. People often ask how to provide that proof of funding. So we made that a little bit clearer, and I know that's a hot topic for the board after our last meeting when Growing Green asked for additional time, and part of that was funding. So additional changes submission guidelines. This is really just from, well, it is for help you guys in the reviewing process. One document in PDF format with the same naming convention, so that we're not having to open multiple documents and try to find what we're looking for as we review. Added an event and signage guidelines to require grantees to recognize item grant funding on any print materials and signage. That really should say something about recycling market development funding. Now that I read that out loud, and include item representation at events such as ribbon cuttings. And then I did add a note on confidentiality of information, which is another question I often get as people are applying, whether or not that information is confidential or not. So I can pull up the actual guidelines at this point. You should have all received a copy, one copy that was like, had all the track changes, so you could see what the changes were, but it was a little messy. And then I did provide a PDF that just highlighted the areas where the changes were made, but we can open it up for discussion at this time.
Deanna?
Yes.
Something just kind of sticks out to me, and this may be old school. I know we can attend in a lot of different ways, but the word encourage selected funding candidates to attend the board meeting. I'm a little more direct. I think that should be required.
Okay.
What's the board's
Yeah.
feeling in that regard.
That's when they're applying, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, I would say required. On the follow-up, on the presentation, like the recycle works, I'm okay with that piece being a Zoom, or if they're, too far away, but I would agree with you if they want cash, come and go get it, right?
I agree. Except, I mean, for free money, you should be able to show up.
Sure, that's a change. I mean, in the past, we've just encouraged it. And obviously, I think that the last time that we had members or grantee applications not attend, they did not get funding.
Yeah. True. Yeah, well, that's the case too, right? It's kind of like one of those things is, yeah.
Because there was
It could be
questions
part
that
of
we
that
couldn't get
evaluation
answered,
piece
right?
too, so. right.
Yeah, but I can definitely, if the board wants it to say required, that's an easy change.
Any other comments from board members?
I wondered if we could address inflation in these. I know I've had this particular community call me and say, well, we can't get a bid for a piece of equipment that's gonna hold for 6 months. They only hold it for 45 minutes now. It's, is there any way we can address that? If they apply for a grant for $200,000 piece of equipment, and then when it's time to go and buy it, it costs $260, what do we do? So any way to address that?
Very good point. I mean, we've all seen the inflation impact that we've had.
Yeah, does that get tough though, that, because we do the 50% matching, right? But we've got a cap of the $2 million to spend. So I'm just trying to kind of walk through is if we give out all that funding, right? And then they come back and ask for an inflation, and we don't have that inflation of the kitty to go grab to, I think that if there's no kitty to grab, you can't give out those because due to inflation, unless, due to inflation, they give us a more grant funds to give out, but I don't think that could be practical.
I guess the only thing to tell them is that they're gonna have to cover that out of their own,
Mhm.
so they
Because
should have a
it's-
reserve. They should have a reserve to cover that.
Because we don't have the
perhaps.
reserve.
Yeah.
That's a
Good point.
Yeah, good point, yeah.
Anything else? We need a motion to approve these changes, Tiana.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve.
We have a motion by Mr. Lutz
Second.
and second by Ms. Ackman. We can do a roll call vote. Obviously, Ms. Ackman,
Yes.
Mr. Lutz,
Yes.
Ms. Henry,
Yes.
Mr. Guerin,
Yes.
Ms. Whitehead,
Yes.
Mr. Gratz,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Motion carries. Thank you, Deanna, for the changes. And I think we're going to have some exciting projects come in fiscal year 23. All right, next item on the agenda. Oh, man, we're at the end already. Certainly, we have something else that we need to work on. Yeah.
I thought I'd
We're
give
up
you guys,
fantastic.
I thought I'd give you guys a break this time. We've been going up to noon for quite some time now, so. And I mean, we can open it up if there's anything else that wants to be
Any other
addressed at
topics?
this time.
Any other topics from any board members, anyone in the audience? Do you have any comments? Hearing none. The remaining schedule is, we will meet on Thursday, July 28th, and Thursday, October 27th. Is that correct, Deanna?
Yes.
So on the 28th, we will have the applications available to us, no?
I could provide the app, so they're not due until October 1st.
Okay, so we'll address the grant applications between October and the next meeting, which would be when?
February.
February.
I think You're
Am I
confusing me too.
Okay, which ones? Yeah, I think I am getting confused.
Yeah,
The
Thursday,
three.
the July 28th, they'll be reviewing the applications that come in from the grant room.
Yes. So July, so we get, from the grant round, the RMDB round. Those come in middle of June, yes. So you'll have an initial chance to look at those, not, all the compliance checks and other reviews and scoring of item will be done yet at that point. But we can provide an initial overview, in summary pages,
But the awards will
but the
still be
awards
made
will still be made in October.
in October. And then on the,
12/26, those applications are not due until October 1st, so we will have just received them at item, and we'll provide recommendations to you guys by December 1st, so those will be looked at in the February.
I guess my question is, will we have to add a meeting?
At this time, we do not.
Okay. Good.
July 28th is probably gonna be a lighter meeting. That's always our summer one. In the past, we have discussed about having those at as a tour as well, at one of the past grantees, or even a material recovery facility, or, you know, some waste diversion project that we can have interest in. So, I'm just kind of curious if the board would be interested in me trying to schedule something like that again for that July meeting. Sure. Okay. So I will look into that and keep you guys updated.
I'm sorry, I'm making some notes here. Bear with me. All right. Any other actions or comments with regard to today's meeting from anyone in the room?
I'll say just a quick invitation. Circular Indiana is having, Ask Me Anything calls coming up in the middle of May. Some of you have already responded, but if you haven't gotten that invitation and you want to hear more about what we're doing or ask questions directly to us, please reach out and I will add it to the invitation.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate everyone's attendance today. Bob, nice to meet you. Welcome from the board. And we look forward to working with you again. Pat, thank you as well. You're always wanting, here in Deanna, keep us on track. You've really got a good group here with Deanna, Tom, and Pat. I mean, they keep us in line, so we thank them every meeting. With that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Guerin, second.
Second.
Mr. Levis, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Oh.
Was that opposed or in favor?
He can stay on Zoom.
I think that was a delayed.
Thank you, Mr. Guerin. With that, thank you. The meeting is adjourned, and look forward to seeing you again in July.
It's like you accept.
Thank you, everybody.
On Zoom, they don't count.